Washington Post has come up with an explosive news item. It is widely believed in the Muslim countries, especially Islamic countries, that Israel enjoys a lot of influence in American politics, and the recent attacks against Iran were carried out by the US after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu exerted his influence on on the United States administration, or at least requesting them to carry out those attacks. But Washington Post has asserted in one of its reports that it was not only Israel that lobbied for such attacks, but Saudi Arabia also lobbied for that. This is going to be very explosive because it's going to damage the reputation of Saudi Arabia in the Islamic world, especially when the Muslims in the Islamic world know about it, that Israel and Saudi Arabia both requested Trump administration to carry out these attacks. It's going to damage it. It's going to create a lot of challenges for Saudi Arabia as well, which I'll discuss in a bit. Let's go back to Washington's Post report. So it says Donald Trump launched Saturday's wide-ranging attack on Iran after a weeks-long lobbying effort by an unusual pair of US allies in the Middle East, Israel and Saudi Arabia. And Washington Post has talked to four people who were familiar with this situation, and then the newspaper the newspaper has further written, it's interesting that US officials did not believe that Iran was an imminent threat. So the newspaper says Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made multiple private phone calls to Trump over the past months advocating a US attack, despite his public support for a diplomatic solution. The four people said, so the four people that Washington Post talked to said that Mohammed bin Salman, who in recent years normalized ties with Iran, and it was welcomed by many countries, especially in Islamic world. So publicly, he was advocating a diplomatic solution for Iranian nuclear program or missiles program, but privately, he was making multiple calls to, to American administration, to Donald Trump over the month, advocating a U.S. attack on Iran. The combined efforts, now the newspaper write, the combined effort helped lead Trump to order a massive aerial campaign against Iran's leadership and military, which in its initial arc led to the death of khamenei and several other senior officials. Now, this is going to be very dangerous, especially because you see that extremist or hardliner clerics in Islamic world might exploit this revolution. They might say, they might declare Saudi Arabia in a way, betraying the Islamic Ummah or Islamic world. Now, the newspaper is saying that the attack came despite US intelligence assessments that Iran's forces were unlikely to pose any immediate threat to the US mainland within the next decade. So that's very interesting that the US intelligence own assessment uh, flies in the face of the claims of Israel and Saudi Arabia. Then the newspaper writes Saturday's attack on Iran was a break from decades of US decision making to hold back from a full scale effort to depose the regime of a country of more than 90 million people. It also marked a strong shift from Trump's own previous military forays, which until now have been far narrower in scope. Now Trump will bear the risk of the bet he has placed that a major military operation conducted from the air can achieve political goals on the ground or not. Naturally, it will be difficult to achieve political goal if if the aim is to topple the government and carry out a regime change. For that, ground troops have to be sent. And then it has quoted Trump's uh, Trump's speech. But let's move to the points related to Saudi Arabia. The Saudi push for an attack came as presidential envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner pursued negotiations with Iranian leaders over the over the nuclear program and missiles program. As those talks proceeded, Riyadh issued a statement following a phone call between the Crown Prince and Iranian President that Mohammad would not allow Saudi airspace or territory to be used in an attack on Iran. In his discussion with US officials, however, the Saudi leader warned that Iran would come away stronger and more dangerous if the United States did not strike now after amassing the largest military presence in the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, said the people who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive situation. Muhammad's position was reinforced by his brother, Saudi Defense Minister Khalid bin Salman, who held closed-door meetings with US officials in Washington in January and warned about the downsides of not attacking the people. The Saudi leader's complicated position probably reflected his desire to avoid Iranian retaliation against his country's vulnerable oil infrastructure, weighed against his view of Tehran as Riyadh's ultimate foe in the region, said those familiar with his thinking. Now, this is very important. The first challenge that Saudi Arabia might face if this war, lingers on, and if the region witnesses escalation, of course, Saudi Arabia itself has the pockets of Shiite population. Then there are a lot of Shias, or in reality, majority of the people in Bahrain are Shiite, and they consider Ali Khamenei as their spiritual leader and religious Shiite leader. So they would view this news as a sort of naturally with suspicion and with fury and anger, and they might view Saudi Arabia as a collaborator. So that would not go down well with the Shiite living in Middle East, especially in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Saudi interest could also be damaged in countries like Pakistan, or at least anger would rise against Saudi Arabia, and uh, uh, Muslim world, of course, the reputation of Saudi Arabia would also be dented. So that is one thing. Houthi rebels who have attacked Saudi oil infrastructure in the past, they might find an excuse now and they might carry out their terrorist activities, and that is going to badly damage Saudi's efforts to diversify its economy, and of course, its economy is going to suffer. They might carry out some attacks not only inside Saudi Arabia, but in Yemen, where they are furious over the Saudi intervention. So, Houthi rebel, which are considered terrorist by some countries, might resort to that. Iran would not trust Saudi Arabia any longer. It was difficult for Iran to normalize ties with Saudi Arabia, and earlier it did target Saudi Arabia, saying that it did not want to do that, but it is Tehran that is under attack. That's why it is now. It might get an excuse to target Saudi interests in the region. This might also flare up sectarian tensions in the countries like Saudi Arabia, in countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, and other parts of the Muslim world, because Iranian proxies stand dismantled or weak, and Saudi Arabia, because of change of the policy, it stopped supporting extremist forces the way it used to in the past. It carried out some reforms. It tried to modernize itself, liberalize its economy, liberalize its society as well. But now it might be forced if Iran starts supporting anti-Saudi forces in countries like Pakistan or Afghanistan or Yemen, then Saudi Arabia might be forced to revisit its policy of abandoning its own Sunni proxies who had been created to counter the influence of Iranian revolution. So Saudi Arabia is likely to face challenges unless it issues a very strong rebuttal to the satisfaction of Iran. But in the Islamic world, its reputation will definitely be damaged if it is proved that Saudi Arabia, along with Israel, requested Donald Trump and the American administration to carry out these attacks, because these attacks have decimated Ali Khamenei and many senior, uh, military officials. So sections in the Shiite world would definitely consider Saudi Arabia as a collaborator, uh, which is not good for Saudi interest.